We are the tribe from the north, we're brave and we're bold. Defeating our rivals never gets old. Making our way to the Big Sky Conference. Watch out, 'cause here comes the silver and gold. Whoa, whoa. This is Tubbs at the Club for the Vandals of Idaho.
Welcome back, Tribe from the North, Brave and Bold, to the official, unofficial podcast of your Idaho Vandals and the Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brian Marceau, and we're joined today by producer extraordinaire, Dallas Hammer. Dallas, how's it going? Well, I can guess how it might be going based off your clothes, but how's Wildcard Weekend looking for you?
Wildcard Weekend is nerve-wracking. I am planning on getting absolutely tanked on Montucky's right after this podcast, as I am not feeling good about it. I am feeling a little better about Idaho basketball. Not great. Damon Thacker had a really nice moment over the weekend. Not weekend, earlier in the week. Maybe we'll see a win. Who knows?
Are you higher on Jared Goff or Idaho basketball?
Oh, that's like asking me which kind of crippling, like anxiety or crippling depression. Unfortunately, I'm higher on Idaho basketball.
Okay.
So
that is the tail of the tape.
Yeah.
And anyway, we're here today for instant reaction to Idaho's back-to-back close, or mostly close, losses at Southern Utah. But first, ain't nothing like cracking a Montucky cold snack, an ultra-refreshing light beer born in majestic Big Sky country. The best part is, when you crack a snack, you're giving back. Montucky Cold Snacks donates 8% of all profits back to local causes, even right here in Idaho, supporting organizations like CW Hogs and Idaho Food Bank. Yeehaw! That's freaking awesome. Montucky Cold Snacks, the light American lager for pow pow rippers, gator wranglers, pony riders, and badass do-gooders. Visit MontuckyColdSnacks.com today to find out how to get ya ass some snacks. Dallas, we already stepped on the lead a little bit. Again, we're just not going to have a lot of great weekends for Idaho basketball with this team. We're part of the question is, hey, what the heck is generalizable from this year to the future? But before we get into the discussion, Thursday, Idaho at Southern Utah, close game, and really both of these games had a similar track. For the most part, Southern Utah would pull out to a lead, Idaho would come back. Southern Utah pull out to another lead. Idaho would keep it close. Southern Utah didn't really pull out in either of these games until Saturday at the very end. Thursday, that back and forth resulted in an Idaho loss, 85-80. Damon Thacker really carried us with a career high of 27 points on 7-17 from the field. Javeri Christmas and Gabe Cornett each chipped in 10. SUU was paced by, no question, future All-Big Sky guard Tevian Jones, also a transfer from Big Ten, Illinois. He scored 17 on Thursday. And then just a few minutes ago on Saturday, Idaho lost 83-67 in a game that, for the most part, was closer than the final score. Thacker again led Idaho with 16. Freshman Ethan Kilgore had his season high at 10 points. And again, Tavian Jones from Southern Utah, he's carried the Thunderbirds. He had 30 points today. And like I said, both games were relatively close, except today. Southern Utah really pulled away over the last 6 minutes of game time or so. But Dallas, throw it to you. What's your initial takeaway?
Initial takeaway was Damon Thacker had a great game on Thursday. Again, no turnovers, which was really nice to see from him. And then 27 points is unbelievable. If he could play a little bit more like that every game, we might have a puncher's chance, kind of like Trayvon Allen last year. If we have a guard that can maybe not dominate a ball game, but at least score more effectively than we seem to do, that would be really nice. I was thinking maybe today's game would go a little bit cleaner, and obviously we did have a lead for 20-some seconds before SUU went on that 12-2 run, and all of a sudden it was a double-digit game again, and it was over. But the big thing was the turnovers. Again, that's what I'm probably going to be a broken record circling back to that every single game. You can't turn it over twice as many as the other team and expect to win games, especially when we are battling with a bit of a talent deficit. That's kind of my takeaway. What about you, Brian?
I'm going to piggyback off the turnovers part first, which is like one, we know at least we've had a few competitive games. So, we said last week that at this point with this team, we need to be happy if the games are close and there's a little bit of drama. We did have that both Thursday and Saturday, but you're absolutely right. Against NAU, we had 15 turnovers both Thursday and Saturday game. And against Southern Utah, we had 14 turnovers on Thursday compared to Southern Utah having 7. Our ratio was better on Saturday in that we only had 2 more turnovers than Southern Utah. The problem was we had 19. And we're just – this is the thing that kills us about turnovers, Dallas, too, other than the fact that, hey, when you turn the ball over, you can't score. A lot of our turnovers are not coming from aggressive plays where here's an example. Tanner Christensen – he gets a charge call late in the second half where he's making a move for a close shot. It was probably like a 50-50 call. Some games that's a block or a no call. Some games it's a charge. Today it's a charge. But when players are aggressive, you get turnovers. That's fine. We're having way too many turnovers 20 feet away from the basket. Or we're having way too many turnovers just working the ball around the horn where we're not even making an aggressive move yet. And that pattern was there. But the thing I'm going to pull it back to is, to me, the story is field goal percentage. And this is the good news, bad news of the games that we just had. We talked about it last Saturday where Idaho shot, off the top of my head, it was around 70% on threes in the second half against NAU on that Saturday and lost. And hey, that's part of why it's competitive. But you make that closer to the league average, like 38% and that game's not really that close. We actually saw a little bit of that in the games against Southern Utah. Thursday, we shoot 56% from the field and 50% from 3 and lose by 5. Look, we broke 80. So, hey, congrats. We'll pat ourselves on the back. So good news there. But look, this team shooting 56% from the field, 50% from 3. You have to win that game by 15. Then Saturday, we followed that up, shot 54% from the field. We were shooting 60% from the field with 10 minutes left in the game. We were 25 of 40, and we were losing. 60% from the field. We finished shooting 54%, only shot 15% from 3, but this is actually just the example, like I said, about Northern Arizona. You take one of those positive field goal percentages and bring it down, and the game isn't really a game. Well, we shot 15% from 3, even though we shot 54% from the field, and we lose by double digits. So, Dallas, so I don't dominate this too much, man. That's really my takeaway. It's good news, bad news. We had a nice shooting game, but we still lost. We just have to win those.
That is what it is. I don't really have anything else to add to that. I could shovel on. Let me see here. I don't remember which tab this was on, so I do apologize for anybody that's watching this or even listening to me. Southern Utah had 10 offensive rebounds. That's not great. There was a possession where I think they had 4 of them, and on one possession, took a couple minutes off the clock as shot, miss, and every single time they came up with it. And I know I keep saying it, but when you are talent deficient compared to the rest of the league, you can't shoot 15% from 3. You can't let up this many offensive rebounds. You can't turn the ball over like this. And while yes, there are the games where they shoot 50% from 3 and it's a 5-point game and it's close till the end, there's also games like this where what was at one point a 55-53 lead turns into a game they lost by 16. And it's just going to keep happening until every single thing is perfect. And then maybe that's how they get a win, when every single thing goes right.
And you're in different words perfectly describing the broad difficulty with this team, which is when we have the talent kind of deficit we have. And we're going to get to some positive takeaways too. So, and there are certainly some positive takeaways from individual performances. We will talk about those in a second. But this Idaho team, as it is, like Southern Utah they're 9-1. Their one loss is on a last-second shot against, I believe it was Santa Clara, opening game of the season. Mm-hmm. Southern Utah is just pretty good. They are going to contend for the title this year. They actually might just win the title based off if Eastern Washington doesn't get enough games. You'd have to call Southern Utah the front runner. They already have 2 wins over Montana. But Southern Utah undefeated in conference. Man, if we essentially have to have everything working out for us. Even this game, rebounds were a problem in the instances you gave, but relative to earlier in the year, we were getting out rebounded by about 10 rebounds a game heading into playing NAU. This week against Southern Utah was really our best consecutive game rebounding performance of the season. Thursday, we get out rebounded 32-33. Today, we get out rebounded by 26-28. Pair that with the field goal percentage, and we still lose. I mean, that's just what you're talking about. Is we, at this point, if everything, we're having close to everything clicking already, and we're not coming away with wins. That's really the pattern this team's going to have right now. Is we essentially win. We essentially have, at this point, we're going to have to shoot real well. We have to rebound real well. And if we can't turn the turnovers into something borderline respectable, that we can have everything go well, we're still not going to win. So before we circle back to a couple positive individual performance, Dallas, I think, do you have any difference for me there where in your takeaway?
No, you couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better myself. You hit every point that I think, and for anybody that's listening to these, you're probably going to hear us say this over and over and over. And unfortunately, it's just, it's what's going to happen. So let's try to spin this more positive. So I'll ask you, Brian, what do you see that maybe either is a positive or something maybe we can stretch into a positive? Do you have anything you can think of?
There's two. The first one we've hit on a little bit is Damon Thacker, which I actually thought after our first game where Damon Thacker scores 27, we finally look like we have a shot creator. My view was, hey, maybe this is our offensive template. We finally have quit going in. We've quit forcing it into the post, and we got a hashtag ask Tubbs from Chris we'll get to in a second. But we'd finally quit kind of forcing it into the post. We were centering our offense around Damon Thacker creating shots. And I thought, hey, maybe this is the template we have. If I didn't see that out of Damon Thacker earlier in the season, but maybe he just didn't have enough free reign to create offensively. Like he's not going to create a ton of assists. He's, as a point guard, he's more of a shooting guard, just being forced into a point guard's position. But if he's our only shot creator, then hey, put the ball in his hands and try to get him to collapse the defense or get some shots. And that absolutely worked the first game. He actually didn't get that many attempts in the first half. He did later in the second half, but we certainly weren't running the offense through him in the second half. So I'd say that was disappointing. But the second is we're seeing Ethan Kilgore had by far his best performance today against Southern Utah. Also, he looked a little bit better in some instances against Northern Arizona and on Thursday. And really what I care about, he scored 10 points, which is fine. He had 8 in the first half, 2 in the second. What I care about more, Dallas, is in the first few games Ethan Kilgore was playing, like I didn't really know what his calling card was going to be as a Division I player. And against Southern Utah, I think it became clear. He was starting to put the ball on the floor aggressively. He needs to get more comfortable as a catch and shoot player. He needs to get more comfortable ball handling. But Ethan Kilgore offensively was my big positive takeaway. Him and Tanner Christensen, they're both. I understand both those guys as D1 contributors at this point.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Especially with Christensen, it was nice to see. I don't know if it's just comfort. He's been out there a little bit more and more and more recently. I don't know if that's contributing for him, but he did have a pretty decent game out there. He's not going to be a superstar, I don't think. I would love to see that. He is a freshman. I'd love to see that kind of development, but it is nice to see some more guys contributing a little bit more. And it's not that it's a more well-rounded team, but it is nice to see some of the fresh faces perform a little bit more and grow a little bit as the season goes.
And Dallas, we're closing in on what I think we need to transition to our broad takeaway. Because listeners, the point of these is to be pretty quick, 15-ish, 20 minutes-ish total. And can you bring up the hashtag Ask Tubbs from Chris and TJ? Because I'm pretty sure I can transition those into what I think our big takeaway is.
So the first one we have is Chris Ham asks with the hashtag Ask Tubbs, how lucky were we to even be close Thursday? And then somewhat on the same level, TJ Hopkins asks, what adjustments should Idaho start making to plan for the future seasons? Coaching or recruiting?
Dallas, I'm just going to answer Chris's real quick because we've actually indirectly answered that already, which is, look, when you shoot 54% from the field, 50% from three, you should win that game by 15. So how lucky were we to keep it close? I mean, I guess at this point we shot ourselves into keeping the game close, because if we didn't shoot 54% from the field, 50% from three, we get killed that game. And I mean, similar story today. We shot, like I said, 10 minutes left in the game. We're 25 or 40 from the field. You got to be up by 15 that game. And our highest lead was 1. So how lucky were we? I mean, really, it just followed our field goal percentage at the end. If we're shooting elite field goal percentage, then we're keeping the game close. That gives you better context to the team. Dallas has the advanced game log up, which Dallas, we talked about this off screen. The stats. Here's an advanced stat that you can sound like a basketball, like just aficionado, and it's the simplest thing in the world to understand. Offensive and defensive rating. Offensive and defensive rating are points allowed or points scored per 100 possessions, or if you divide it by 100, it's points allowed or points scored per possession. The point is to contextualize your offensive performance without factoring in pace, because if you play a slow pace, you can have a low overall score while actually being quite efficient on either end of the floor. And the takeaway here, man, Idaho had our best offensive rating of the season at about 112, which is a very good offensive rating, but Southern Utah's offensive rating is 119. 119 is an astoundingly high offensive rating. As context, if a team took the ball down the floor, shot only threes every single possession, and made half their threes, that's an offensive rating of 150. So if you're approaching 120, that means you're essentially scoring however you want. So there you go. That was Southern Utah's tail of the tape. But for us, Dallas, what are the patterns on? There's a pretty average pattern that I want to ask you about that you're seeing on offensive and defensive rating with that advanced game log.
So what I'm noticing is that at least the offensive rating has gone up for the most part. There's obviously the crater against the Pac-12, but the offense is getting better. You can see or hear the confidence in my voice as I say that, and the defensive rating is still poor, to put it mildly. What I do notice here as we look at this is our closest games. I would probably argue Washington State, the first Southern Utah game, the second Northern Arizona game, the best defensive rating and the two best offensive ratings we've had. So when we are performing a little bit better on one end, we're at least close, but that also does seem to struggle. Offensive rating was very good against Southern Utah. Defensively, we were much worse. That's kind of what I see.
I'm going to translate that into, let's say you're just a casual fan and you're still a little bit stuck on like what these terms rating means. Against Washington State, statistically, we had a fantastic defensive effort and still lost. Against Northern Arizona and Southern Utah, but Northern Arizona Saturday, Southern Utah both games. We had our best offensive showings of the season and kept it close, but still lost. So that's going to lead me to my transition point to answer TJ's question about what do we do heading into the future. My question is, we're Dallas, we're trying not to live in the world of like, hey, let's fire the coach. But like, I have a real question about what the hell Zach Kloss thinks he's doing with this team right now, because this team does not have a ton of wins in it, no question. In fact, our last Division I win came March 7th, 2020 against Idaho State. That was second to last game of the Big Sky season. We're 0-9 in the season, 0-6 in the conference. We are not going to finish in the top half of the conference. Like our top half for us might be finishing 10th. The question I have is, I don't think Zach Kloss is completely playing this team as though he's truly building for the future. And when I say that, I mean, look, Chance Garvin didn't play these last couple of games because of injury, but he'd been starting for us. And Chance Garvin's a great story. Glad he's on the team. Happy for the guy to get a scholarship. But a guy like Chance Garvin, he's not at it. If you're playing a guy like that, you're probably saying like, hey, we're trying to win some games now, but he's not contributing to wins. And every minute he plays, a potential impact player like Ethan Kilgore can't be playing. Or every minute he's playing, Hunter Madden's out, but that's another guard position that Hunter Madden can't be getting those extra minutes where we can say, yeah, we this year's about the future. Look at all these young guys that we're playing. We're starting to get a little bit of transition in that direction, in that like Tanner Christensen's getting more minutes, but I still don't. I watched this team. I thought we might have had an identity, like I said, with we're just going to kind of build around Damon Thacker after the amount of offensive attention he got in the first game, but that kind of went away until later in this game. I don't know what the identity of this team is, or I don't know what the identity Zach Kloss wants to see out of this team.
Not to play devil's advocate, but is there really an identity you could even form if a team is 0-9, 0-6 in conference? Is there even an identity they could form? Because it just kind of seems like they're scrapping to try to get one win, and they're throwing guys out on the court to try to do it. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of thought towards the future. And maybe, again, I'm not a coach. I could be completely off base here, but I would agree with you, Brian. I would like to see the younger guys playing, and some of the more senior guys. It's tough to say, hey, thanks for your 3-4 years here. Take a seat. But when you're struggling like this and you're looking to rebuild a program, isn't that kind of what you're looking for, is for the young guys to start contributing and start growing and show that maybe someday we won't be the cellar dweller. Someday we won't be the laughingstock of Big Sky men's basketball.
Yeah, we're looking at, we're going to have to close the show pretty quick, guys, but we're looking at, if we don't pick up some wins now, look, worst case scenario, which might just be the average scenario right now, we would be opening the ICCU arena with 9 D1 wins in the last 3 years, and very good chance of 0 D1 wins. If we're going to shoot at an elite level and still lose games, I don't know where we pick up the win. But to put a button on it, what I would say is, I think the best chance, or the best adjustment, TJ, is what I talked about earlier, of kind of center the offense around Damon Thacker for the point of trying to get better looks for, it might sound weird to say, hey, centered around a senior to get better looks for the younger guys. But if Damon Thacker can create some looks for himself, we're going to get some secondary looks for guys like Ethan Kilgore, for guys like Hunter Madden when he's back, for guys, Tanner Christensen's starting to get some better looks too. He's also starting to get more minutes as well. But I guess I still can't watch this team and say, like, hey, I know they're trying to build for the future based off the looks guys are getting, based off what they're doing offensively. It still seems like we're trying to straddle between, like, yeah, we're going to play young guys, but we're also going to try to, early in the season, we were kind of force feeding Scott Blakely. Good news is we stopped doing that. But the big thing, I think, is our offense looked much better on Thursday when Damon Thacker could create, and then that allowed for other guys to get better looks. Good news, like Gabe Quinnett wasn't taking multiple dribbles to take shots today. But yeah, to answer your question, Dallas, and then we'll jump off. Yep, it is hard to have an identity when your team is like this. But I can tell you again, like, just watching the games, I don't know what Idaho thinks they're doing that's generalizable into next season. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, in our next games, we have Northern Colorado next week. Hopefully, we get some clarity there. But otherwise, I guess I'm going to close it kind of positive. We do appreciate everyone who is a Vandal. We do appreciate guys like Scott Blakely sticking it out for 4 years when Blakely could have easily transferred. And it is good to see that Damon Thacker, only here for 2 years, has made some what look like developmental steps in the last week that a few weeks ago didn't look like they were on the table. But we're going to close the bar. Dallas, tell everyone how to find you, and we already know what you're doing this wild card weekend. Yep.
So you can find me at Hammer Dallas. For anybody that is watching and knows how to read, you can see that on the screen there. I am, again, a Rams fan. If anybody is watching, I'm really just going to bury myself in this one. I'm wearing a Cooper Kupp jersey right now, so I'm sure I'm not popular with a lot of people right now. But that's what I'm planning on doing this weekend. What about you, Brian?
I'm a fiction writer on the weekends, guys. So I'm going to jump off here and get to work, because during COVID teaching, there's essentially no time for anything else. But thanks, everyone, for downloading. You can become a patron at patreon.com/tubsoftheclub, or make a one-time gift at paypal.me/tubsoftheclub. We're going to call it a day. So now it's time for the best band in all the land to play us out. Sound of Idaho. Go Vandals.